All right, there you go. Here we are. We have a new guest today here. Hi everybody. Please welcome our new guest, Kent Chevalier. And cool stories we'll hear today related to the NFL, which is not usual in our audience to talk about sports. Directly, but this is going to be a lot about football today. And I'm so excited about this. My youngest son, speaking of which, we just spoke about the kids. My youngest is a football, so he's getting to the high school and is trying to be a wide receiver. I don't know a lot about football. I'll tell you, I'm going to asking you a lot of questions about this. But
Sure,
anyway,
sure.
Kat, please do introduce yourself a little bit here, and I'm sure you're famous more than I am for sure. And please do tell.
Yeah, appreciate it, Alex. Man, it's good to meet you. When I spoke at the Gulf Coast CEO Forum and had the opportunity to cross paths with you and the invitation to be on here. But just by way of introduction, man, I'm married to Erica, 27 years. We just celebrated our anniversary. Together, we have three daughters, and they are 24, 22, and 18. The last one just graduated from high school. So, man, we are starting to taste this empty nest that we've been hearing about. But we love our girls. And then, yes, I have the opportunity to be the Pittsburgh Steelers chaplain, and I have been in the Pittsburgh area for my entire life, and I love Pittsburgh. And so going down to meet you in Florida was a real gift because that particular week it was cold in Pittsburgh, but now here we are, man. So great to meet you, and thanks for having me on today.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. It's always great to mix our conversations. We talk about business and talk about some. I mean, to some people, it's boring. I mean, I always fascinated to talk about business and talk about process and improvements and how to go to the market and kind of challenge the leadership. Um, and how does how really all of this business talk is intertwined with our personal lives
Hmm.
and how all of this is intertwined with the way sports is organized. Sports is done. I mean, we're all human beings, and we've been bombarded by all this, problems and AI and technology and everything that is hitting us. At the end of the day, we are people.
That's right.
So we're going to talk about we're going to have we're probably going to go on a tangent, talk about philosophy a little bit here, but
Sure.
I'd like to start with something very specific. um First and foremost, that on the background is a new book. Just
Oh yeah,
tell me more about it. Yeah, there
that's
you
right.
go. Yeah.
So I just launched a brand new book. Yeah, Renee at the Gulf Coast CEO Forum gave them out to everybody, which was just man, I was so excited for that. But this book just released, and it's the foreword was by the former head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers, Mike Tomlin. Mike Tomlin invited me to come and be a part of the Steelers organization to serve as chaplain with my wife. And so this book right here is a story of our journey of leadership over the last 30 years. And we left what we knew was really comfortable for us, 23 years of leading in the local church context, and we jumped into the NFL. And so we had a lot of fear doing that, but we embraced that fear of the unknown, and we did it afraid. And that's the title, Do It Afraid, Jumping into Your God-Given Purpose. And so we really we tell our story in there, but we also give a framework for how to make really big decisions like that in life. Because I don't know about you, Alex, but man, sometimes I've made decisions that have got my family in a lot of trouble in the sense of financially. Man, we moved to a brand new city and things didn't go the way that it should have with selling a home and things like that. So we talk about, my wife and I together, about how to leap before you jump. And LEAP is an acronym for a essentially a decision making process before you jump into something new. And so that's what the book is essentially about. And so I can't wait for you to be able to read it, because we just met a couple weeks ago, man, down at the forum.
Yeah, and you know what? I'll be honest with you. I kind of diagonally, scanned through this. I was at the presentation where you basically, laid out all the content of the book in front of us,
Yeah,
to a degree, and kind of and chew it for us. So it was really exciting to be there, and see. I have a lot of slides that I took down to process,
yeah,
and
yeah,
this was really good and inspiring. um, I wanted to I wanted to really start kind of peeling that onion. Very beaten phrase, but
yeah. I
I
got
don't know,
you.
maybe a better acronym in the football terms you can tell. But what is it the most exemplar? What is the best example that you can give from the sports, from playing the game of football and playing the game of business?
Right.
I don't.
Yeah. I mean, there's
Let me
so
not
many.
add playing the game of husband or wife or the family man. Uh, let's just let's just do the business and the football for now, and then we
Yeah.
can segue into the personal a little bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a quote that Randy Gravett, in his book "Winning at Work," or excuse me, "Winning at Home," he says this: "You can win at work and lose at home, and either way, you still lose."
Yeah, I
And so he
remember that.
talks
Yep.
he talks about how they are so intertwined, and we should be giving our best leadership to our home, because that will actually make our leadership at work even better. And so, yeah, there are so many unique correlations, because as a team, I believe that football is the best team sport that's out there. And I often say that, like, when you look at a football team, every position has to win for the entire team to have to be able to win. So every player has to win at their position so that the team can move the ball down the field effectively. So I believe that football is the ultimate team sport. And I think that there's a lot of correlation between the game of American football that can correlate into the way that we lead in our businesses. And so that's, at the Gulf Coast CEO Forum, I gave these 7 commitments of a courageous leader that really come from watching the leaders that I've watched in football, coaches, head coach Mike Tomlin, in my case, to understand from his level of leadership. To be able to just learn under him was like a master's class in leading team culture. And I think it's something that we could all learn from. And so, yeah, that's the conversation that we had at the Gulf Coast CEO Forum was essentially those big commitments to shape cultures of leadership, because you can have people who are on the same team, but if you don't have a culture all heading in the same direction, you're not really a team. And so we talk an awful lot in our locker room about the idea that the strength of the pack is the pack in and of itself. And so, how do we do that as a team? So, yeah, man, I know in business there's a lot that correlates over to American football, and I just love drawing those correlations for people.
What would correlate uh, the most with the conversations in the locker room? Say after the second quarter.
Yeah,
Which conversations are more tough? For is it? I mean, you're really in the locker after the second quarter, half the game, right?
that's
You're not
right.
really in the locker. So I'm very, sorry, I'm not
No, I
that
got
close.
it.
But what is the most reasonable correlation in business from the conversation with in the locker room during the halftime.
Yeah, because I teach this principle that one of the most, like, I guess, impressive things that I saw in football coaches was their ability to be prepared. So this idea of the best leaders are the most prepared leaders, but at the same time, to have the humility to be able to say that our plan isn't actually working and to be able to make those halftime adjustments. And so in business all the time, you could have an A type leader who, it's my way or the highway, and you better do it like I tell you to do it. But here's the thing. What if that's not working? You have to be prepared to be flexible. And so it's this commitment to having preparation. You're the most prepared leader in the room at all times. But when things hit us in the face, when change comes, when the economy changes, when business strategies change, we have to be able to change within the face of that change. Um, a lot of people they go down in their leadership with the ship, so to speak. I'm going to go down as it's sinking because they don't have that ability to be flexible. So I teach this principle: make sure that you are the most prepared leader in the room, but you better be prepared to be flexible when. So I use this quote from the prophet Mike Tyson, right? Famous boxer. He says, "Everybody has a plan until you get punched in the face." And then you've got to
Yeah.
be able to change your plan according to your opponent, to other competitors who are in your business, stratosphere, so that you can have that unique foot forward, because you're the most prepared to be flexible. And so when I'm talking about, to this principle to younger leaders, I will often say in business, in nonprofit space, when you're 20 and 30 years old, there are things that you can do way ahead of time that will impact your leadership flexibility. Things like this, to master your schedule. Oftentimes, like, as I'm working with these young men, they're always running late because they don't know how to manage their time. And so, man, it's almost like I have to prepare to be flexible because they haven't prepared to master their schedule, to create margin within their schedule so that they're not running from appointment to appointment like that. And so if a younger leader and leaders in general, if we don't have margin for interruptions in our calendar, then we can't be flexible with the changes that are going to come, our way. Another way that I talk about is that, you know, younger leaders, we need to learn to be flexible in our communication styles. So like I've got my cell phone right here, and a lot of the younger generation is here. And so,
Mhm.
and they have their certain ways of communicating. But what if your boss, your leader, is he doesn't communicate, she doesn't communicate, via texting or Snapchat and all this? What if they do the old fashioned emails? Like, you have to be able to be flexible to change the way that you do communication to your boss's communication, to your board's way of communication. And when you prepare like that and you understand, like, I become a master of my communication, a master of my schedule, a master of even things like my integrity, that I'm going to do what I say I'm going to do. I'm going to be the most prepared person that's always on time, always doing what I tell you to do. That's going to prepare me when the prophet Mike Tyson comes and change punches me in the mouth, and I have to be flexible with my plan. And so that's just, a way that I can see in leadership, both in football and in business, that we both need to be, prepared, but to be flexible as well.
So, so in the locker room, halftime starts, and then the conversation starts. So who really? How does it happen that coach comes to realization he's at the fork?
Yep.
Either okay, it's not working because we're not pushing enough, we're not persistent enough,
Hmm.
or if whether it's a decision to say, yeah, the plan didn't work, let's pivot.
Right.
How does this process work, in football? I mean, I really want to know,
Yeah. So
and see if we
in the
can.
NFL, in the NFL, even, college and now at the high school levels, you will see a whole bunch of people. I've got my iPad here in front of me, and
Yeah.
you'll see them go to the sideline. And after a series, maybe a series, you had to go, you know, you had to punt the ball on fourth down, and you had to, turn over on downs. You'll see that the offense, let's say that the quarterback and the receivers, they all come together, and you'll see them on the sidelines literally studying, because there's cameras everywhere, and they are specifically looking at, okay, the route that you are running and the defense, the way that they are now controlling against the way that we're running our particular installed offense. We have to make our changes on the fly, and we've got to be able to recognize that their defense is actually prepared for our offense. They know our cadences. Cadence is a weapon, and they know that things are coming our way. So we have to be able to, like next series, make a change or call a different play that they might not be expecting with the language that they hear us coming from. And so you'll see them on their iPads literally studying right after a series so that they can make those changes. But at halftime, what I love about, so on the televisions, on our screens, we don't see that there's a whole nother coaching staff who's at the top of the stadium. So like this is a leadership lesson where it's a perspective that while you're on the sideline and in the game, you can't see what those coaches who are up in the top of the stadium from their perspective, what they are seeing. And so you have coaches, you have staff who are completely dedicated to showing you what you can't see at ground level. And they are now showing you their perspective and telling you what they think would work, but they're not even on the sideline because they have a completely different angle, a different perspective of the game from way top of the stadium. And so at halftime, all those guys run down into the locker room, and the guys who are on the sideline, coaches, and the coaches who have been up top of the stadium, they come in and they start comparing notes. And the offensive coordinator and the defensive coordinator, they'll pull all their coaches together and they'll say something like this: what's working and what's not working? We need to get rid of these plays, and we need to start running these types of plays because the defense has figured out what we're doing. So it's
Hmm.
that level of communication from different perspectives. And I'll say this, because in business, sometimes it's just your gut. Like, in your knower that we need to start doing something different. And so some of those coaches, they just know that this particular play, let's experiment with it during change. Like, let's not be so rigid that we can't change the way that we would, you know, call a game, because we know, hey, we're going to experiment and we're going to be humble enough to take a shot, take a chance, and see if this works. And if it doesn't, then we won't play that, do that play any longer. So it's fascinating to watch, as a guy who's just kind of sitting back, how they make their changes.
Yeah. Um, so I'm assuming that um, quarterback is is quarterback the CEO or the coach is the CEO?
So I think they work in tandem. So the coach is making the final call, but then again, so like, think about it. The coach is on the sideline. He's not in the game. Right. And so you might have the quarterback coming off from the field saying, hey, coach, this is what I'm seeing out there real time. And you can't see what I'm seeing. So they all talk and they work together. And that's why I think that the American football is the absolute team game, because it's not just the players who are a part of the team. It's also coaching strategy that's a part of that team. So I would say that the CEO is really, okay, it is the coach at the end of the day, players doing what the coach says, running the plays that the coaches are calling, but great communication from that quarterback to the coach, and then working together to pull to drive the ball down the field.
So if we extrapolate this a little bit into not just one game strategy, but the season,
Hmm.
right? What kind of analogy we can put in, we can come up with, because ultimately there's a goal in
Yep.
the season to win a Super Bowl. So how do you win the Super Bowl in business?
Yes. I mean, okay. So all 32 teams in the NFL have the exact same goal. And that goal, that mission is to have confetti raining down on them at the end of that season because they won the Super Bowl. It's the goal isn't even just to get to the Super Bowl. The goal is to win the Super Bowl. So what needs to take place? So like if we think about NFL football right now, we are in what's called the off season, and all of the guys are required to be at what's called mandatory mini camp, where they are learning the new plays. They are getting to know their new teammates, all of the new coaches, and they're working on the stuff now that is going to be implemented. And the Super Bowl isn't even until February. But that's the goal now, that they would sacrifice for that mission the things that they have to be able to do now. So things like this that sometimes we wouldn't even think about. Um, NFL players are extremely disciplined with what they put into their bodies by the way that they eat. And so if they are eating poorly right now, at the time of
Mhm.
this filming in June, right? Then in February, it's going to have an impact on the mission. So they have to sacrifice what it is that they're eating. You think about it like this: guys, right now in June, they need to be lifting weights. They need to be disciplined for the workouts so that their body is prepared to be able to be, sustain an entire NFL season plus the playoffs to get to the mission of winning the Super Bowl. So they have to be able to sacrifice for that mission. So we can take those types of lessons, that to do the small things now will have a major impact on that mission, on that goal in the future. And we can't look past, we can't cut corners, we can't get lazy in our leadership. We've got to do the small things so extremely well that our integrity, we do what we say that we're going to do, even if it's the small things, returning the emails, you know, hitting those deadlines, making sure that we are, when my boss says to do something, I do it absolutely, and I'm not cutting corners. I sacrifice for the overall mission, whatever that goal is for my company, whether that's the sale, whether that's the merger, whatever it might be. I sacrifice now because the goal is out there and we need to accomplish it together as a team.
Well, we're in business. Most of our viewers would be somewhat in business of managing, you know, programs, projects, capital projects, large, small projects, or portfolio of projects. So, and I think with all the analogy that we just talked about, mission, the
Hmm.
confetti, the Super Bowl, I think this is something that is overlooked in business a lot.
Yeah.
Just clearly defining that mission. Obviously, for the Super Bowl, it's the most watched television show in the year, right? The most
Yeah.
expensive commercial and stuff like that. So everybody's watching. There's nobody on the road, when that happens. In business, we kind of fail to, a lot of times we even fail to communicate that actually this is the mission, this is
Yeah.
the confetti,
Yeah.
and without having that connection with the confetti, I mean, a lot of teams are confused, right? You have
Yeah.
confused team that is not going to be able to, doesn't know where it's going, and
That's right.
in managing, say, if we're managing large capital project, that that opening the bridge, the new bridge is built, say, right?
Yeah.
You have that confetti, you have that announcement that we've done it, right? The
Yep.
engineer walks on the bridge first
Yeah, exactly.
to make sure it's still there. Um, that's it's interesting. It's interesting to have this roadmap of what you need to go through in order to complete the project. But it's not really completing the project to reach that goal. To reach that goal, and there's all kinds of obstacles
That's
in
right.
between.
And
And
one of the largest obstacles, I think, from businesses reaching their goal is that they are not clear on what the goal actually is. But then it's even, you take a step back from that. What I love about the game of American football is that every position has a very clear job description. And so I believe that a part of any team, whether it's in business, whether it's in education, whether it's in arts and entertainment, whether it's in, National Football League, every person deserves to have a clear job description. And so the vision gets muddy if a person doesn't know what their part is to play to get to the ultimate sacrifice for that goal. So we can say that the whatever, to use your illustration, we're going to build a bridge from here to there, and we'll know when it's done when we can drive our cars over it. Right. But if a person's job description is not clear on how they participate in building
um,
that bridge is never going to get accomplished.
yeah, well, there's all kinds of additional excuses that you can come up with, right? And I don't want to call them obstacles, but after all, it's leaders' job to define those descriptions, to define those roles, and set those expectations. And I
That's
think
right.
in project management, portfolio management, we overlook a lot of that fundamentals. We
Yes.
should go and look at the football more so that is actually going to help us to achieve our goals.
Yeah, and
Um,
here's what I would say as a person who in business, if I'm on your staff, if you're the CEO, I'll just say this, you are very intimidating because you pay my bills. If I don't want to ruffle your feathers as the leader because I want to keep my job. And so we need to understand as the CEO, as the leader, just that title is extremely intimidating for my team to be able to ask you any questions. So when it comes to clarity of people's roles, it's actually on both people. So the leader needs to be extremely clear about the staff member's job description, where their job starts, where their job ends, what it is, what's the big win for that particular role. However, it's also on the staff member, the person who's on the team, that if they have any questions, they have to be able to ask those questions of the CEO, of the leader, to say, "Hey, I'm not sure. Can you help me understand what it is my role, where my role ends and where I start?" That kind of clarity. And here's what I would say to a bunch of leaders is that you are only as good as a leader as your team understands the clarity of their role. And if there is not clarity for their role, that's on you as the leader, but it's also on the staff member to be able to ask the question. And that goes to a team's culture. Because if a team member doesn't feel safe enough with the CEO to be able to ask those kind of questions, then you've got an interesting culture of a fear-based, I don't want to mess up because if I ask him a question, he'll think I'm incompetent, that kind of thing. So it's on both members, the leader to be clear and also the staff members to ask for that kind of clarity to be able to accomplish the mission.
you you brought this point about the job description and expectations of each
Yeah.
person,
Yeah.
but it got to my mind something that is just boggling right now. It's not just it's probably equally important to understand the expectations and job descriptions of your team members, not just your own
That's right.
expectation, but your team's expectation, but even more importantly, your superior, your management, your leadership
Hmm.
team descriptions and expectations, which from the leadership perspective, you want to open you want your own job description as a leader
Hmm.
to be very much known by your team, meaning that
Yes.
your team, just job description is to actually challenge me as a leader,
Yeah.
and me as a leader, I have to welcome those challenges, right? And that's part of
Absolutely.
my job description.
Yes.
And they have to know that this is part of my job description.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'm failing in my job.
That's right. And you and I both know that that takes humility on a leader's part to be able to say to your team, I want you to critique me. I want you to challenge me. I want you to ask questions because I don't want to hire a bunch of yes men. We're a part of a team together. And I think that that's another piece of culture that a lot of leaders miss, is that sometimes we have to forfeit the mission so that we understand that the team is more important than the mission sometimes. And we as a leader have to have that kind of intuitiveness to know when our team is really suffering because of the mission, and we're going to call a timeout, and we're going to pull everybody together so that we can heal up, so that we can all get on the same page, so that we can ask questions of each other. And a leader needs to be intuitive to know when their team members are actually starting to get out of pocket, out of their lanes, be able to see that kind of thing. And that takes humility on a leader's part to say, hey, if there is a problem, you need to come to me and tell me because I might not see it. So let's create a culture here where we can all be feeding into the overall mission together. So, yeah, I agree with you, man.
I remember it was so hard on me. Yeah, there was one case. Well, maybe I hope I haven't overlooked others, but there was one case when I had to challenge my customer, who was obviously one of our customers,
Yeah.
and I basically had to challenge and put at risk our financial relationship with that customer for the sake of my team. And basically, I let that customer know that, hey, I am I am prepared to sacrifice our relationship
Yep.
because I want my team. I built my team. We build and we care about our team more than this specific contract over here. And I think at the end of the day, that created so much more respect on the other side.
Yes. Yes.
And at the end of the day, it paid back, more. And so, because the customer would rather, recognize that he's working with a partner who's taking care of his team as much as, and that's important for the
That's right.
overall value that this partner can bring me as a customer. I think that really paid back, but it's really hard to. You have to have, I don't know, you call it humanity. Um, I call it uh, bold move or something like that.
Yeah.
What's the difference between bold move and humanity in this case?
Well,
Like, what?
yeah. So here's what I think humility is, right? It's a strength of being known for who you really are. And so when we begin to lead our business on purpose, and we understand that, hey, the strength of our team is the actual team, and you're not, as a customer, you're not going to take advantage of this particular, player, this team member, and we're a pack together, and you're not going to pit us against one another. And when they begin to see that kind of humility, being known for who you really are, doesn't mean that, oh, I know that I am good at these things, the products that we serve, the way that we, serve our team and our customers. We know that we're good at this. That doesn't mean that we're not humble. That actually means that I am humble. My strengths and my weaknesses are known to everybody. And a lot of times, what happens in business is that we will do, and we've been told in our culture that we will do whatever it takes to serve our customers, even at the sacrifice of our own team. And what I think you're doing, Alex, is you're saying, hold up, time out. We're not going to do whatever it is if that's going to hurt them. We're actually going to protect them. And when we are actually humble that way, that is bold. And so it's the same thing, I would say. The fact that you stood up for your team and saying, you're not going to take advantage of us that way. I would rather work with somebody who wants to protect their team than because it shows me how you're going to protect me as a customer. And so that you might call it bold, and I'm just going, man, you are actually protecting your team and being humble about that. That it's not about the bottom line dollar for me; it's about my team, and I care for them. So while you call it bold, I'm going, bro, that's brilliant humility on your part to say it's not about money for me.
But the reason why it seems to be um, a risky move or bold move is that you're potentially, may lose this customer. But I think if you really put this customer first mentality and say, I am actually willing to do what it takes to to survive our relationship between me and you as a customer, which will at the end of the day will bring you as a customer much more value by our strong team having the right mindset and the right doing the things
Exactly.
the way it should be done. So we should lead this with the end with that mission because remember the mission in all of this is after all to provide services, to provide solutions to these customers, solve their problems,
Right.
that's our mission, right? We in exchange we get monetary value, and then we create a revenue. But the mission in business is to solve customers problems.
That's right.
Let's not forget that's the confetti. That's
Yep.
the confetti. So
Yep.
that we should always see. Only we almost forgot about the confetti now. When we talked
Yeah, that's
about
right.
this, we almost forgot about the confetti, and that's easy to forget about this.
And as a leader, sometimes, okay, so that is the mission of the company. That is the mission of, like, that we're all driving in that direction to provide and solve that problem for that customer, and we are really good at what we do. And what you did by saying and standing up for your team member, it actually showed your confetti as the leader. Your confetti as the leader is that you put your people over your mission when it came to mistreatment of your people. And I love that, right? Because what did that do? That actually strengthened your team to be even better in the future, knowing that you would have their back and that you put them in priority over making another, deal, or, so when you stood up for them, I think that's a brilliant move on your part, because what does that mean? You're going to keep your team, and they're going to be strong, and they're going to want to work harder for you and for the mission moving forward. So brilliant move on your part.
So is it the same? Like we may lose the battle, but we may not lose the war. Is it the
That's
same?
right.
same thing.
That's right.
Uh,
Exactly
yeah,
right. I love that saying, man.
yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's that's why it's hard, I guess.
That's right.
Sometimes you don't have a lot of time to process all of that. Sometimes decisions have to be made really, really quickly. And I guess the more we practice making those decisions, the more times we're on target to make
Yeah,
the right
that's
ones.
exactly right. Yeah. I've
Yeah,
loved hanging out with leaders in business who I have seen that they want to work extremely hard towards that confetti, whatever that is for that company. Solving that, customers' problems, whatever it would be. I have loved watching leaders who are leading on purpose with both hanging intention where, okay, the confetti of solving that problem and making money while doing it, and also going, but my people they are the ones who are going to make this mission possible. So I'm going to protect them and I'm going to invest in them and I'm going to reward them for the hard work. And when you put your people above, I've watched as leaders do this, when you put your people above that product or that answer to that solution, or excuse me, to that problem, I've watched as the people they want to work so much harder to solve that problem. And so by putting, I heard my good friend Brandon West, he said, please don't waste your business on just your business. Your business is your people, whether that's your staff, your team, investing in them. And then by doing that, the problems will be solved, the mission will get accomplished. And a lot of times leaders are saying they pour so much time into getting to that, the raises, getting the next deal, getting, and all of that's important. But what if a better way to do that is to invest in your people who are actually going to get that done? And they love you and they'll take the hill for you. They'll work so much harder for you because you've invested in them. That's a higher purpose than just the bottom line of your business.
Kent, awesome, awesome conversation here. I really
Yeah.
appreciate. One last box to open before we part ways here. I know you're a religious person. So how does God come into play on this picture?
Yeah. So in my role, man, so I was a local pastor for 23 years, invited into the business of the NFL to be a chaplain. And so I love that Mr. Rooney, who is the owner of the Steelers, that he would invite a guy in like me to be able to walk alongside players, coaches, front office staff, and their families, to those who are spiritually curious. Because in my business in the NFL, players can't often, because they work on the weekends, they can't get to church, they can't get to Bible studies. They can't get to any of that kind of stuff because they're constantly working. And so the fact that Mr. Rooney would allow me and invite me in to be the chaplain, to just simply walk alongside with my wife to meet the needs of the players, to simply be available to them, is something that I think that all leaders, CEOs, business leaders, that we should be thinking through. Because um, if we care about the whole person of our team, like we want them to perform well. We want them to meet the goal and the mission. We want them to perform to our standards. There's often times where inside people, there's things that go neglected because they're working so hard. And so, what if we as leaders began to look at the whole person? Like in my business, for instance, I just gave a talk today about how there are so many people that are dedicated in the business of the NFL to people's bodies. So think about trainers and team nutritionists and the chefs, all what they're putting in their body, how they're taking care of their body. And then There's somebody talking about, taking care of their mind, their mental performance, the pressure on the field. And so there's team clinicians and psychologists that are available. Well, I love that Mr. Rooney also sees the value that we are all spiritual beings, and that when we lay our head on the pillow at night and we start dealing with and thinking about the things that cause restlessness and stress and anxiety, that sometimes those things are deep inside of us emotionally. And what I tell the guys that I work with all the time is that your inner game will always impact your performance. So if you've got stuff that's going on inside of you that is unresolved, that when you lay your head on the pillow at night, it's the stuff that is causing you to not sleep, and you're worried about it, you're anxious about it. Here's what I know is that God doesn't want you to be anxious. He didn't design you to be that way. And so we need to talk about those things. So I love being available to players, to coaches, to say, man, this is the most stressful performance business that I have ever seen. How often, is there billions of people watching this game, and you have to perform at your job, and there's so much pressure that comes with that. Let's talk about what's
Yeah.
going on inside. And so that's how, Erica and I, we just simply make ourselves available to serve people at the Steelers. And we have just watched over 7 seasons now how sometimes in those really difficult moments, people will call us in the middle of the night and they just need to talk. And we're available for that. And so that's how, every person, whether they want to admit it or not, there is a God-shaped hole inside of us. We try to fill it with a job. We try to fill it with, a particular drug of choice, whether that's alcohol or, we try to fill it with a whole bunch of different things. But I would like to say that, man, only God can fit in that hole. And that's what it is that you're searching for to give you peace. And so let's have a conversation about what true peace really looks like.
I mean, I'm a I'm a true believer in in faith, and nothing happens just for no reason. There's always this the hope, the belief, the faith in something great that will lead you to success.
Hmm.
And that starting from believing in that confetti, you have to
Yep.
really believe in that, even though all the you know someone who is just started, like someone that's like a 6 years old right now,
Hmm.
he has this belief that one day he will has this confetti. That's his mission.
That's right.
And I know because my son, he's like, when he was, younger, especially when you don't know that it's very hard to get, and very unlikely to be an NFL
That's
player,
right.
right?
That's right.
Um, they all believe like, like little kids, right? They're more open to all of this, and
Yeah.
we always forget that we have been kids once,
Yeah.
and we had that faith, and we lose it over time.
That's right.
And we need to maintain that, and this is spiritually, you know uh just absolutely necessary for anyone doing business, doing sports, doing anything like that. Ken, it was amazing talk. Thank you very much. We will definitely post this and share it with everybody.
It's great.
It's amazing to have you on the show. Thank you very much again.
Well, thanks,
um
Alex, man. Appreciate you having me on. And if I can serve you in any way, man, please just let me know.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. God bless. God bless
You
you
too.
guys. Thank you.